On the morning of April 22, 2026, the fragile silence of southern Lebanon was shattered. Amidst a conflict that has already claimed thousands of lives, a new name has been added to the list of the fallen: Amal Khalil. Khalil, a veteran correspondent for the Lebanese daily Al-Akhbar, was killed in an Israeli airstrike in the town of Al-Tiri. She wasn't on a battlefield. She was taking cover in a house, attempting to fulfill her professional duty in a region where the line between journalist and target has become perilously thin. The details are harrowing. Initial reports from the Lebanese Health Ministry and the Red Cross describe a frantic rescue effort. While her colleague, freelance photographer Zainab Faraj, was pulled from the rubble alive, Khalil remained trapped for hours. By the time rescuers, flanked by the Lebanese army and UNIFIL, could reach her, it was too late. Lebanon's Information Minister Paul Morkos has called this a blatant violation of international humanitarian law. But as we have seen throughout this 2026 war, international law is increasingly being treated as a suggestion rather than a mandate.
To understand the gravity of Khalil's death, we have to look at the timeline. Only 5 days ago, on April 17, a 10-day ceasefire was announced by US President Donald Trump. It was supposed to be a humanitarian pause, a chance for 1.2 million uprooted Lebanese citizens to return to their homes and for diplomacy to take the lead. But the reality on the ground has been anything but peaceful. Within hours of the midnight deadline, reports of warning strikes and defensive maneuvers began to surface. Israel claims it targeted vehicles in southern Lebanon that were departing from Hezbollah military structures. Hezbollah, meanwhile, maintains that the civilian toll, including the life of Amal Khalil, proves that the ceasefire was never respected by the Israeli Defense Forces. The humanitarian cost is staggering. The UN reports that while 113,000 people remain in collective shelters, thousands of others are returning to southern suburbs that have been leveled. They are returning to unexploded ordnance, collapsed bridges, and the constant hum of surveillance drones overhead.
While blood is spilled in Al-Tiri, the diplomatic corridors of Islamabad have gone cold. The world was watching Pakistan this week, hoping for a breakthrough between the United States and Iran. The US sent a high-powered delegation led by Vice President J.D. Vance, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, and Jared Kushner. The goal? To turn a temporary truce into a permanent end to the 2026 Iran war that began in late February. But by April 20th, the hope vanished. Tehran officially announced they have no plans to participate in further rounds of talks. Why the sudden withdrawal? According to Iranian state media, it comes down to three things: Washington's excessive demands, the continuing naval blockade, and a recent incident involving a US destroyer and an Iranian cargo ship. The US maintains that the ship was attempting to evade a blockade while carrying illicit materials from China. Iran calls it armed piracy. This incident has given Tehran the pretext to reimpose restrictions on the Strait of Hormuz, the world's most vital oil artery. 1/5 of the world's oil passes through this narrow passage, and with it closed, the global energy crisis is deepening by the hour.
The language coming out of both Washington and Tehran has reached a fever pitch. In a recent interview, President Trump issued what he called a last chance warning. His message was blunt: if Iran does not sign this deal, the whole country is getting blown up. Specifically, the US administration has threatened to systematically destroy Iran's civilian infrastructure, its power plants and its bridges, if the Strait of Hormuz is not permanently reopened and uranium enrichment is not halted. For Tehran, this is seen as an existential threat. Iran's parliament speaker, Mohammad Baghir Qalibaf, stated there would be no retreat in the field of diplomacy, but the gap between the two sides seems unbridgeable. Iran views the US naval blockade as a war crime, a deliberate infliction of collective punishment on their population. This is the maximum pressure campaign of 2018 taken to its ultimate violent conclusion. We are no longer talking about sanctions, we are talking about the potential for total regional conflagration.
Where does this leave the people of the Middle East? In Lebanon, the death of Amal Khalil serves as a grim reminder that even those tasked with documenting the truth are not safe. She is one of at least 172 children and hundreds of civilians killed since the escalation began in March. In Iran, the population braces for a potential strike on their power grids as the Wednesday deadline for the ceasefire expiration looms. And globally, the energy markets are in a tailspin. The price of oil is no longer just a statistic, it is a barometer of how close we are to a third world war. As the 10-day ceasefire enters its final hours, the diplomatic last chance in Islamabad appears to have failed. The guns have not truly fallen silent, and the negotiators have packed their bags. We are left with a simple, terrifying question. What happens when the clock runs out? Amal Khalil once said that her duty was to be the voice of those who were being silenced by the roar of the jets. Today, her voice is silent, but the story she was trying to tell of a region on the brink of total collapse has never been louder.